Where my girls at? Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's something serious. Where my girls at? We ain't linked up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right.
Hey, you guys. Hey. Happy Wednesday. We are excited to be here. Yesterday's show was so good. We had to come back for a part 2. So,
all right, everybody. We are here. You are tuned in to We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. The Superstation. I'm so excited to be here. It is a wonderful winning Wednesday. And guess what? I'm going to say it because I got my short sleeves on again today. It is 80 degrees plus in the D. You talking about the sun is out. I'm telling you, I am a creature of the sun. I get energy. It just makes me feel so good when the sun is shining. And of course, you know, we're in the D and we're getting vitamin D. That's a good day for me. And so I'm excited that we are here on today. And of course, you know, I'm hanging out with my girlfriends from across the country. We're going to hear from them in just a few minutes. But we are the force of friendship. And of course, you guys, you know, we love coming to you Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. And we're excited about all of the things that we get to talk about. You know, we got issues, you got issues, I got issues, we all got issues. And guess what? Our goal is to talk about them all. And so, you know what? We absolutely love when you call in. And of course, you can call us at 313-778-7600. Well, you guys, I'm so excited about this topic because yesterday we talked about to forgive or not to forgive. The choice is yours. And when I tell you our guest, we have guest again on today. She's with us and you're going to meet her in just a few minutes. When I tell you the call-in, the lines were hot. I mean, we could not even get to all of the callers. And so, you know what? We thought to ourselves, you know what? We got to do part 2. We can't wait on this. We can't sleep on this. We got to do part 2. And so many of you that are watching us on our Facebook Live, whether you're watching us on 9:10 a.m., the Superstation, or on the Force of Friendship, your comments, we appreciate all of the comments that you sent to us. And many of you are like, we have some more questions. We want to talk about it some more. So you know what? That's exactly what we decided to do. Because guess what? It's our talk show and we can do what we want to do. So we decided to bring you part 2. So I'm excited to be here with all of the girlfriends. We were missing Sabrina on yesterday, but when I tell you she's on here with her bright red, show us those pearly whites. Looking beautiful. And so I'm going to throw it over to my co-host on today. Of course, you guys know she is formerly from the D2. How you doing, Gloria, Mayfield, baby?
Oh my goodness, it's heating up in Detroit. I'm so glad. You know, it just feels like the air is different. Detroit is one of those cities, when it snows, and when it's sunny, it's sunny. So I know you guys are lapping it up. I'm so excited to be out here in the DMV. But let me tell y'all this. Okay, y'all gonna have to watch this for real. I mean, y'all gonna have to pray for me for real. Listen to what's happening. Every 17 years, we get this infiltration of these bugs called the cicadas. Have you heard about those things?
Yes.
Holy camole. And I was here 17 years ago when they did it. So they're coming out a little bit earlier because it's warm.
Oh, no.
I hate bugs. Like, I live in the woods, I know, but I still don't like bugs. When I tell you, okay, so they said it's the biggest infiltration anywhere in the world, deep, and it causes the birds to have more babies because they can eat better. The trees are better because of it, but it is a solid 30 days of yuckness. I mean, yuckness. I mean, they leave, what is it when a spider leaves his skin all over the place? What's that called?
When it sheds
or something.
A cocoon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The skin. It's the skin. It's just a blessing in a different kind of way. It's just a blessing. So I'm gonna have to forgive the cicadas. I'm gonna have to forgive the trees. I'm gonna have to forgive the 17 years. I need this show today. So I'm really glad that we came back to do this show. I truly, truly am. So I'm excited to be here with you guys. I'm excited about this conversation. I want to invite you guys that as you listened yesterday and you started thinking about people you needed to forgive or thinking about forgiving yourself. One of the things we learned yesterday is transparency. So call us in and let us know what your story is. Sabrina, I'm heading down to North Carolina. How you doing, sister? Sorry we missed you yesterday. Glad you're with us today.
I know. I'm so glad that you guys are here today. The show is awesome. I got to catch the tail end of it, and you're good. This show is good, okay? You guys got it going on. Yes. I'm a big fan. I was like, oh, they sound good. That's some good conversation. Was really excited about our guest yesterday. So glad that she is gracing us with her presence again today. It is a big topic. And Gloria, I know you said I'm excited to talk about it. I don't know if I'm excited to talk about it because it is a painful conversation. Many people have been wronged in many ways, and they are finding it hard to forgive. It is not easy when you have been wronged in such a big way. I mean, people have lost family members. People have been killed unnecessarily. Right. I mean, like, a woman called in yesterday, a woman, tried to wreck the family, take her husband. I mean, y'all, this stuff, and I know the Bible says to forgive. I know, but we have to work on it. Okay, we have to work on it.
It's a process.
It is a process. So I'm glad that we're here to talk about it more. I am. It's beautiful here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We're going toward record heat the next 5 or 6 days. They're talking record heat, 90, 95 degrees.
Oh, I love that. I love that heat.
Get ready for the heat. Caterina, my girlfriend, Caterina Harris Earl. How are you?
Okay, so I'm on the Nextdoor app, y'all, and I'm looking for a new housekeeper because my housekeeper won't call me back. Did your housekeeper come back, Sabrina?
No, and I just went on there today for Nextdoor. I just asked my neighbors, who do you have? Who do you have? And you know what? I wanted her to come back. I've been texting her. Are you back in business? Are things better now? So, obviously, if she's not hitting me back, I just told Kitty, okay, she's out of business. So let me just go on and not be emotional and replace her, okay? Because this house is dirty.
Claudia is so good.
Forgive her. That's right.
Yeah, it's a problem. But we can't beg people. We can't beg people. We cannot beg people to work. So I didn't text Claudia same thing 50 times. So I was on there looking. I got 3 possibilities. I got to FaceTime them. You know how you got to clean up before they come over. I got to FaceTime them so I can get a quote, figure out which one I'm having to come over. But while I'm on there, people in my neighborhood were talking about that they saw the UFOs on the weekend. In our neighborhood, y'all know that there's this whole big thing about that the government's coming out with this UFO thing. And so he was like, I tell you, did y'all see pictures? So that was interesting. And then Paul Mooney, Caterina, you guys.
Go ahead. Let me just say this. If the UFO is looking for the smartest one in the neighborhood, you gone, my sister. You are gone, my sister. We don't know.
I promise you. OMG, trust. I am not the smartest one in this skillet up in here. Stanford, Livermore Lab, all that stuff. Okay. But, and then Paul Mooney, you guys, I love to laugh. Paul Mooney passed away, the comedian. Y'all know the comedian, the picture. I'm going to show you his picture. You guys know who he is. I didn't realize he was 79. Anthony said, how old is he? I said, I don't know if he's older than you or younger than you. I didn't realize he was 79. Does everybody know who Paul Mooney is in the chat? Funny, funny, funny. Sometimes you had to hold your ears because some of his words was special. But when I tell you, funny, Gloria, when you Google him, you're going to be like, OMG.
Really?
So we don't know what happened. Yeah. So that is always sad. Always sad, always sad. Yep, Felicia says she read about the UFOs by the Bay Area Navy. Y'all, I'm just saying. So that's what's going down. But Crisette, I'm glad you came back for a part 2 because I got some stuff I wanted to add about that forgiveness. That stuff is deep. So I'm excited for the juiciness.
All right. Yesterday, because we had so many callers, we didn't get a chance to hear a lot from the girlfriends. So hopefully, today we will, but I am so excited to bring to the stage and for all of the radio listeners that were not on yesterday to meet our guest. And that is none other than Portia Hewitt, who is the First Lady of Reconciliation Ministry. She has been married to Pastor Joe Hewitt for 35 years. They have 2 amazing young adult children. And you guys, I am so excited because I believe it was this year she authored, I believe this might even be her second book, her book called Reconciled. And it is an amazing book. If you don't have it, you absolutely can go to Amazon and order it. But it is an amazing book of stories of individuals who had to forgive. And these aren't just little ththings like somebody stepped on your toe and it hurt, or they, used your car and had a car accident and you had to get a new car. But these are deep stories of some deep hurts. That can hurt you to your core. And she was able to share some of those stories on yesterday. And so many of you called in and shared your stories of forgiveness, and we appreciate you for that. So for those of you that are listening, maybe you were on the line yesterday and you didn't get a chance to call in. Well, we want you to call in. Of course, that number is 313-778-7600. But again, we're excited to welcome First Lady Portia Hewitt back to We Got Issues. Yes. We're excited that you are
everybody
here.
Ready to go.
And so we will continue the conversation on today. And so on yesterday, we kind of ended with a young lady who called in and she was sharing that she had read the book and, she had some things that had gone on in her life and how the book was very, very helpful to her. So Portia, why don't we start off today with you just kind of reading another story from your book. And again, I want you guys to know that these are real people. These are real stories. They're not fictional, but they are real. Portia?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you so much for having me back. You never know how things are going to go, but it's a good sign when they ask you to come back. So I appreciate you. And I appreciated everyone who was on. I even got an email this morning from a caller, and it just really blessed me. You always want to know that, somebody's out there and you're making a difference and that it's actually worthwhile. So I'm just grateful for that. Today, the story that I've chosen is a completely different topic. Yesterday, we actually did a topic about adultery, which is so huge. And then some of the people who called in were talking about abuse, family abuse, and things that happened in their childhood. Well, today, the story that I have is from a young lady. And one of the things I didn't talk about yesterday is that when these young women came to me, I told them, you can use your real name, you can use an assumed name. It's entirely up to you. This young lady said, you can use my name. Her name is Charlotte. And she wanted to use her real name. But her story is all about sibling rivalry. And that is, look, see the eyes. Such a huge.
Wow, we hear a lot of it. We work with a lot of families, and we hear a lot of that. So I'm totally leaning in on this one.
Huge story. And so this story from Charlotte is entitled the year my sister became my friend. And I can kind of skip around a little bit, but just to get in it, the way she starts her story, she says, sometimes things have to get turned upside down before they become right side up. And she said, being the oldest and less prone to mischief, Mom left me in charge when she was away. Now, this young lady, there were 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and she was the oldest. So her mom would leave her in charge whenever she would leave. She said, I hated getting into trouble, so I tried to do everything right to make life easier for Mom. I worked hard at being and giving my best, a quality that identified me as goody two-shoes. While my siblings and peers thought I was a real square, adults seemed to applaud me as a good example. That was good and bad. Good because Mom recognized my efforts to live right, but it was bad because she often lauded my successes to my siblings. Why can't you be more like your sister Charlotte? I started noticing a real change in my sister's attitude toward me. I honestly believe it was a direct result of her feeling measured by me. And that's kind of where the story really goes in, because in the book, what I do is I actually pull out some of the Bible characters that had the same type of thing going on. And I mean, if you really look at it, Charlotte actually compares her life to being the one with the coat of many colors. And you know the story of Joseph. You know, his father gave him, everybody else that you would say had a coat made out of a burlap sack. But when Joseph came along, Joe had the coat that was red and green and orange and purple and, you know, had the pearls and the trim and all that. And so Charlotte likened her life to being the one with the coat of many colors because her mom openly in front of her and her siblings, why can't you be more like your sister? And so that's when the sibling rivalry started. And that's when her sister became estranged to her. And she just couldn't seem to penetrate or get through, you know, to have a good relationship. So she always wanted to have a good relationship with her sister. So picking it back up, what happened was on Monday, July 2nd, 2001, without warning, I went to work and received a pink slip. And just like that, my job was gone. Now, Charlotte was a young woman, very intelligent young woman. She's in engineering. She was the kind of person who could buy a house for cash or buy somebody a car. You know, if they didn't have a car, she could just go in her bank account and just buy them a car. And she was very generous. She was very good with her money. You know, people applauded that, but her siblings didn't have that ability. And so now here she is with a pink slip. And just like that, she's laid off. And it wasn't until she got laid off that her sister actually started coming around. She says, for the first time in my life, I was the one who needed help. And that fact seemed to beckon my sister to come. And that's when things started turning around, because that's when her sister started seeing her as a real human being and vulnerable, just like everybody else. And the thing that she had been praying for, a relationship, she had no idea that it was going to come with a pink slip.
Wow. You know, that is so powerful, Portia. You know, when I look here at Gloria, nothing but sisters, and all of them are phenomenal in their own right. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall just to be in the conversations at the Hewitt home. And then I know Sabrina, you know, she has amazing children, and they're Kennedy and Quincy, both phenomenal athletes. And it's like, I think about, you know, their dad being an Olympic gold medalist and training both his sons. And is there competition? Is there jealousy? Is there, I mean, it's just so much. And so I'm going to throw it over to Gloria, because I know, Gloria, you had something you wanted to add, but talk about your sisters, you know, if you ever felt, or if you ever, you know, saw some of that in your household.
You know, when she started talking about she was going to do a sibling story, my eyes were like, because of all the people that we know and their siblings. And then as she kept reading, I was starting to think about, okay, there's 4 of us. I'm the third of 4. And over time, how our perspective changes things. You know, there's always like 1 or 2 people in the family that are the, what do you call those people that are the the ones that people come to who make things come together all the time. It's got to be a name for it. But the person who just makes everybody see things and everybody get along. I'm the everybody needs to get along. I'm the let's go into the upstairs in the bedroom and let's talk it out and let's everybody get along. I'm the let's everybody get along kind of person. However, that is a real situation when different sisters have different gifts. And at different ages, it looks different. At some age, teenage years, it looks rivalry or jealousy or envy. When you're young, it's like, yes, that's so exciting. And then when you get older, it becomes, yes, that's so exciting again. So I totally can identify with that. I can tell you there's times that it was most challenging is when we were burying our parents. And, when it comes to making some hardcore decisions because we see things differently. And I consider myself a person that doesn't hold grudges. I mean, it takes a lot to get me mad and it takes a lot for me to hold on to things. And I think that's why they come to me a lot, because some people's temper gets faster than others. And I think that as Portia talks about the thing of forgiveness, I have questions around the skill set, the different personalities, people's attitudes, your perception, your perspective. And I know we got to go to break because I'm watching the clock. So I'll throw it back to you, Chris, to take us to a break. But that's where I was going with it.
Wow. That is so good. So good. You guys, we got issues. We're talking about forgiveness. We are getting ready to go to a break. But when we come back, we're going to have Gloria finish her story. And we absolutely want to hear from you. So give us a call, 313-778-7600. We'll be right back after this break.
Hey, you guys, it's Gloria. Hold on a second. Let me put this on mute. Yeah, put on mute. Hey, Facebook. It's been a minute since I've had a chance to talk to you guys. I first want to tell you, I love it when you guys talk on the chat. This is a serious subject. It's so funny. I was saying, I'm excited to hear this topic. I'm excited to hear what we're going to come up with. Sabrina was like, oh my gosh, I'm not excited. Forgiveness comes through a very dark ride. And so what I love about that is that different people have different perspectives on topics. And so as you guys think about this and write about this, and I'm definitely getting her book. In fact, I'm going to ask Chris to tell us again where we get her book, because I love teaching other people about emotional management, and forgiveness is truly a piece of it. And then what about this part of forgiveness, you guys? When you need time, some people can forgive in a day. Some people need days, weeks, or months. I am excited because we get a chance to bring you topics that make a difference for you. When we get back on the radio, I might talk about a woman I talked to earlier who said, oh, this show is making such a difference for her in her business. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking when I wrote something to a group that I'm in, a Facebook group that I'm in, I said, you know what? The art of forgiveness has to do with things personally and with things professionally. And if you could walk away with some tips that would make it different, easier, better for you to forgive, it is a gift. And, women are mothers, sisters, best friends, daughters, role models. So we take these skills and we give it to other people. So I cannot wait. Wow, Drea has a twin brother. I didn't know that. Look at all these things we're learning about each other. Okay, so you guys write down the number, 313-778-7600, because you might call us in. I'm listening here to see if we're back on station, because it's so exciting to hear about this.
Okay, we are back. And prior to the break, we are talking about to forgive or not to forgive. It is a choice. And prior to the break, Lady Portia shared a story from her book, Reconciled, about sibling rivalry and how things happen as you're growing up. And so before the break, Gloria was sharing some things about that sibling rivalry, or things that go on in families that can cause siblings to carry things and, may need to have a different perspective of things that happened while they were growing up. So Gloria, I'm going to kick it back to you.
Okay, so my question for Portia as she went through this, can't hear me. Oh, sorry. My question for Portia as we go back to this, and she teaches about forgiveness in a book, different people can lock into forgiveness given their perception. Like her book is full of stories, and when you read the stories, they change your perception. So when I deal with my sisters and our different attitudes and the different things that turn us on, get us happy or make us mad, and we get to know each other deeper, I think one of the things that she started out saying yesterday that was so profound was that at the base of it all is love. At the base of it is love. And so that's truly, for me, one of the reasons that I can capture forgiveness fast, because I have said this all the time. People that make me upset either did it manipulative or it was a mistake. That's the only choices I see. So if it was a mistake, I get to choose to forgive and understand. Or should I say it the other way? Understand and forgive. And if it was manipulative, then I don't want to be in that space. And I just excuse myself. And the way in which you excuse yourself also will deal with how you handle it. If you excuse yourself with venom and anger and trying to get somebody back at it, it stays with you even longer. Or you just excuse yourself from people who you need to remove out of your way. Portia, I really want to ask you about how people's perception about forgiveness can shape their ability to forgive. Because a woman called me today and she was saying, Gloria, the show We Got Issues has made such a difference in my business. And one of the things I put on my social media about today's topic is that this topic can pierce you professionally and it can pierce you personally. And the two sometimes meet. So, how about the perception, Portia, helps a person to forgive?
It's really interesting using that word perception, because the first thing that I think about when I think of the perception is permission. And let me explain what I mean by that. Because everybody, when they hear that word forgive, they think, okay, so I just have to accept people, whoever they are, wherever they are, whatever they do. Jesus said forgive 70 times 7. And that means that I just overlook it and it was okay. And that's not really what it means. What we're doing is we are releasing them from owing a debt, but at the same time, we're giving them permission and ourselves permission to be who we are. In other words, I'm not going to hold you to my standard because you certainly aren't holding me to your standard. And that doesn't mean that either standard is right. Yours might be right, theirs might be wrong, or vice versa. But the bottom line is that people don't communicate together because they're trying to get people on their page. Each person is always trying to get the other one on their page. If you get on my page, we can get along and I can forgive you.
Right.
And it's not about you being on my page, because people have different paradigms of life. And a lot of that is because people have come from different places. Sometimes people hurt you. How many of you have heard that saying, hurt people hurt people?
Right.
And so you don't understand that they're treating you or mistreating you because the only paradigm they've ever had of how to treat people is actually mistreatment. And so then it becomes something, I don't want to say an obligation, but the onus is on us, because I grew up knowing how to treat people right. And so now you're treating me wrong, but the only way you're going to see what right looks like is if I show that to you.
Wow.
That's an eye-opener.
I want to read this, Portia, because it goes right with what you said. I love what you just said about canceling it. It says forgiveness is canceling a debt. But canceling a debt doesn't necessarily mean living as if the debt never happened. Unwritten history, or giving another loan, that would be trust, or starting a business together, that would be reconciliation. So they're talking about the way in which you look at forgiveness. I thought that was very deep. You don't have to act like it didn't happen, but how you deal with it is a gift to yourself.
Well, I wanted to say this yesterday. this is the perfect example. Jesus Christ, of course, is always our perfect example, but there's a scripture that says that he has graven our image on the palms of his hands. People say, I forgive, but I never forget.
Right.
And then some people say forgive and forget. But what Jesus was saying is that I don't want to forget. Your image is graven on my hands. I'm always going to remember that these are the wounds I got in the house of my friends. But every time I look at this, it's not the hurt that I see. It's the love that I see. It was your need that I see. It was the fact that you couldn't help yourself and that I needed to shed this blood because you didn't know how to do it any differently. And I see your vulnerability every time I see that. And so that's a whole nother perspective.
Right.
Wow, that is so good, Portia. I mean, you are just really giving us some things to think about that maybe we hadn't thought about before with forgiveness. I said on yesterday, sometimes people choose not to forgive, and as Sabrina said when she came on, that sometimes the hurt is so deep, it's so real, and especially for those of us that are Christians, sometimes we have to be careful that we don't judge people because maybe we can't forgive just like that, and then other people, it's a process. And so I just think that we have to give people the space to process, to get to the place of forgiveness. And I think once you do that, the more you learn how to do it, it's like anything, the easier it becomes. I know that yesterday we didn't get a chance to hear from Caterina. I know she had a story that she wanted to share. So Caterina, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Well, I wanted to share two things. One is not a personal story and one is, but I was having a conversation with a therapist on the weekend, and she is a therapist that deals specifically with racial trauma and helping to walk people through forgiveness that they have dealt with as it relates to racism. And boy, after watching all 10 episodes of the Underground Railroad, I mean, I could just cry thinking about it, how much forgiveness as people we have to walk in because of what I can't even fathom was done to ancestors. And so I just wanted to just talk about that, that it's just forgiveness. I think when we were talking, Sabrina, you even said, we are so forgiving. I mean, we have to be, because otherwise it just can eat you on the inside. And so I don't know for any of our viewers that have watched, but I wanted to say this. When my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, many of you know that she did holistic treatment rather than traditional chemotherapy, and very respected holistic practitioner in Dallas. And what I love about holistic medicine is part of the holistic treatment was working with a therapist and so forth. And so we went to work with this amazing woman of God. I actually reached out to her and found out that she's passed away, but went to her. And as she sat in the chair, she asked my mom which breast the cancer, because dis-ease, she asked her which breast. And she began to minister to her and ask her to explore the women relationships in her life. And she said, and I want you, from her perspective, this is what she said, that one breast, I think the one closest to the heart, I forget, I wasn't able to ask her, one breast was probably related to a woman that you were related to in your family, in your bloodline. And another one would be the other breast. So the right breast would be the one that for someone that is not related. And interestingly, my mother was like, no unforgiveness. It's not unforgiveness. She said, go back. Don't just go back now, 5 to 7 years ago. And there was a woman through this process that my mother that had done harm to me. And she had harbored that. As I know, I can only imagine how difficult it is for a mother, for someone who has, really tried to harm your child. And I just thought Lady Portia, I don't know if throughout the book, I can't wait to read your book, but did anyone talk about how their unforgiveness had affected them and their health?
That's good, Caterina. That's good.
I don't know anything about that, but it makes sense. We are mind, body, and spirit, and we know that disease is, it's just important for us to be pure and clean, and forgiveness is so important to our health. So I wanted to ask you that.
And we talk about anger and how the root of it, can actually turn into bitterness and how it can actually eat you away. We do talk about things like anger, denial, a lack of self-examination, not recognizing what the reality is of who you are and where you are, not seeing that you have so much resentment and bitterness within yourself that it actually becomes a sin to you. So now it's not so much as what they've done to you as what you're doing to yourself by harboring it.
Right.
And your judgment and your refusal to release it and let it go and really allow God to be God over all people. Because what we really do, like Charlotte says in her book, she says she had actually made her sister a hostage to her transgressions. In other words, everything her sister had done wrong, Charlotte was hanging that over her head so much to a point where her sister could feel the bondage that Charlotte was imposing on her.
Right.
Wow. And you see, and so now it not only affects you and eats up at you, but now it's also become a weight, like an elephant sitting on somebody else's head. Okay. And that can affect you physically, because the bitterness can get inside. It can make you physically ill, just like anxiety. I mean, we all know that anxiety makes you physically ill. So yeah, it can.
Yeah, Portia, I wanted to say for years, I've always known, and I've read this passage years ago, and it said to forgive is to set a prisoner free. Discover that prisoner was you. And that's it in a nutshell. I know the times that I've been angry. I know the times I've been hanging on to something. That person who I'm mad at, they're going on scot-free, living their life happy as a lark. And I'm over there mad, okay?
They ain't thinking about you.
I'm not thinking about you. So you best get it off of you. Like you said, that heavy weight, that burden, you've got to figure out a way. But I know it's easier said than done. It also says that forgiveness is the best form of love. It takes a strong person to say sorry and an even stronger person to forgive. And that's it right there. And I'm always the mediator. I always find myself in the middle of my girlfriends mediating. If one is mad at the other, then I'm in the middle saying, you need to talk to her. Well, you need to talk to her. Well, call her. And so not too long ago, there were two girlfriends and I brought them together, and one said, I'm sorry. And the other one kind of walked off, wasn't ready to accept the sorry. But now months later, she's ready to accept the sorry. And so I think sometimes when it does take time, it might be too late because too much water under the bridge. So Portia, what are your thoughts about when someone says they're sorry, but the person is not ready to accept that apology?
You know what? I had such a situation. I could share so many, but this particular one is so huge. I have to, the first one, let me give you the first one. My first years of being married. Now I've been married 36 years now. I just had my anniversary. Okay.
Wow. Congratulations.
My first years of being married, I learned such a hard lesson whenever I was really in it with my husband. I mean, disagreement. Okay. Like my first year, 1-2 years being married. It's like God would just keep pressing on me, get it right. And I'm like, but he was wrong. He was wrong. And what God taught me to do was bake a cake. And I shared this with the women in the ministry. I said, whenever you get upset with your husband, do something that is so nice that it forces you to put some love on him. So whenever we would have an argument, I would bake him a cake. I mean, it really helped me.
What was in that cake?
To learn what was in the cake. That's some love. That's a real
sugar and butter. And love. A lot of love was in that cake.
That's a lot of
but
love.
Those were my first lessons of how to handle a love relationship when it doesn't feel loving. And I didn't know then that I was going to be a pastor's wife. And it got to a point where later on in ministry, I had encountered individuals who were just not lovable at all. And where God would take me into, I remember one time he took me into a fast for like 3 months. And I'm like, Lord, why am I on this 3 months? I didn't know why. Why am I on this fast for 3 months? And at the end of it, he said, now, this is what I want you to do. That sister that doesn't like you, I want you to go find her. I want you to write her a letter. I want you to give her a whole bunch of money. I mean, he gave me a list. I want you to do this, and he laid it out. I'm telling you, it was, I was sweating. I was like, okay, this took 3 months of fasting. I'm telling you, it was such an exercise. It was such an exercise. But once I did it, I felt like I could breathe. I felt like I could breathe, because every time anyone said this person's name, you ever hear somebody say somebody's name that you know did something to you, and the first thing you think is, oh, yuck. Right. And I'm like, Lord, help me get rid of this yuck. How do I get rid of and I knew, I said, every time I say yuck, I know I'm not delivered. I'm not delivered. I got to get delivered. I have to get delivered of this. And so God showed me how, put some love on it. And once I did that, then the bondage was off of me. And if they don't receive the forgiveness, guess who the bondage is on then?
Right.
Wow.
Like he said, show kindness. He said, it's like heaping coals of fire on there. And that was not my intention at all. But God released me in doing that. And so now if you don't receive, this is your relationship with the Lord. This is not your relationship with me, because I have proven to you, I love you.
That is so powerful. Hey, Portia, I just want you to know, a couple of people in the chat said they need to bake a cake. So a lot of husbands are going to get a cake baked tonight. When you get excited, they're going to tell their wives, keep listening to We Got Issues.
We got issues. Right. That's right.
You know what? Let me just share this real quickly. Some of the benefits of forgiving someone. It says when you forgive someone, it improves your mental health. There's less anxiety, stress, and hostility. It lowers your blood pressure. You have fewer symptoms of depression. You have a stronger immune system, improved health, heart, and improve self-esteem. When I read that list, I was like, wow, look how much you, not the other person, you benefit when you make a decision to forgive. That is so powerful.
Improve self-esteem. That's so interesting.
Yes. Improve. And you know what? This is the thing. You know what that I've learned? I always tell people, sometimes the person, when people are arguing and, they are really upset, and you know how we say it takes two people to argue. It does. But the person who can hold their tongue, the person that can just listen and not, get into that argument, that really is the stronger person, because that person has self-control. And I'm telling you that, think about it. All the times you've been angry and you're going back and forth, if you could just constrain yourself. I mean, I'm not saying where you're going to bust a blood vessel, but I mean, really constrain yourself where you can calm yourself down and say you're not going to participate in that. I mean, that really is a strong person. And so when you think about forgiveness at all of these different levels and different situations that have gone on, it literally does take a very strong person to say, you know what, I'm choosing to love on this person in spite of what's happened to me. That's so powerful.
Chris, when you were talking, I think about how this awareness, just pure awareness that you have to stay in the space of being the forgiver, so that you are better because of it. I've heard that statement about disease is dis-ease, like Caterina was talking about. And that is just, I've asked people this all the time. Is that anger worth 5 years off your life? Is that resentment worth not seeing your grandchildren graduate from high school? Is that conversation that you're having really worth it? Do you want, because if you go up the mountain, you have to come back down the mountain.
Right.
So why don't you just slide down the mountain and move forward? Because either it was a mistake or it was manipulative. And if it was manipulative, you don't need to stay in their space. And if it was a mistake, don't expect it. Don't expect them to do something. Portia said something yesterday. She said, hold people to a higher standard than we hold ourselves. That many people hold other people to a standard higher than we do for ourselves, you know, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about that because I wrote that down when you said that. So, Portia, from your book or from your experience, how have people turned that circle around?
Well, I think when I said that, what I was referring to was how people understand who they are. Okay. So you know who you are. You know where you've come from. You know why you're the way that you are. You know what your family life was like, what it was like with your mother, what your journey was through school, what it took for you to actually mature and learn the lessons that you learned. And you know that you're not the person today that you were 30 years ago. You know that you've been on a journey and that you've gotten better each and every year. Unfortunately, other people in your life don't see you that way. They see themselves as a growth or a work in process.
Wow.
But they see you where you were when you made them mad.
Right.
Okay, so it could have been 30 years ago, and they'll see you 30 years later, and they see you as the same person, even though they know that they're not the same person 30 years later. So they can grow, but you haven't grown. And so that's not realistic. And this is where we have to recognize that when people do things to us, you know, to harbor it for 10, 15, 20 years is not realistic, because where people were when they said things or did things, maybe when they hurt you 20 years ago, they were coming from a place of pain where something had happened to them that you weren't aware of. Okay, maybe they healed from that. Maybe they grew from that. Maybe they've changed and they've gone through things, life lessons where they've learned something more about themselves. And now you see them 20 years later. It's not fair to assume that the person who hurt you 20 years ago is the person that's in front of you now.
Right. That's super big. That's super big.
So good.
You know, I also want to say this. When I think about you married 37 years, okay, the cake was good at the beginning, but you know, it's 35 years later, okay? And all the women on this call have successful, deep, loving relationships in marriage. And I'm a proponent that in order to have a relationship with anyone, whether it's your spouse, your sister, your neighbor, there's points of forgiveness that have to happen. But each one of those types of relationship causes for different type of forgiveness or different ways of forgiveness. And then the relationship that you have with yourself and the way in which you can forgive yourself. You know, part of it is you have to be careful not to keep bringing up things that made you mad. You know, 12 years ago, they said, if you keep saying it over and over again, you didn't really forgive. You just stopped talking about it. But when you really stop bringing it up over and over again, that's forget it. We could do a whole lesson on how we come back from arguments. I personally don't cook, so I don't make cake. I personally take his Visa card and charge something on it. No, I don't, but I tell everybody I do. You know, so different people do different things to calm themselves down, figure out a way, but that'd be an open conversation for just spousal forgiveness, you know, because you're not in a relationship for 10, 20 years without some kind of argument and some kind of forgiveness.
Right. Hey, Portia.
People, I want to say something on that. Okay, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, somebody texted me and wanted me to ask you this, Portia. The question is in regards to forgiveness. If a person knows that they did you wrong, then they apologizes, but continues with the deceit. How do you handle that? And let's just say, you know, in a marriage, you know, or it can be a marriage or another situation, but in a marriage, if, you know, that person did something wrong, they apologize, but then they continue in the same behavior or there's some deceit. How do you handle that? And I know you said love on them, but that's real. How do you handle that?
You know, it gets to a point where you have to recognize that even though a person is apologizing, if they don't realize in their heart of hearts that they have to make a change, the behavior is going to continue to repeat itself over and over and over. And my husband is on the line. And he just went through a whole big, he just went through a whole big series. He actually, I see he's saying LOL. We just went through a whole big series where he actually confessed openly, publicly, how God took him through a heart change. And this only just within the last couple of years. Okay, I mean, you're talking 36 years, right? So there have been, just as you said, some things where, oh, I did that. Oh, I'm so sorry, you know. But finally, it's like God got in on the inside and said, listen here, foundationally, there's something that's happening that's going to cause you to repeat that. Right. And he had to realize that wasn't something that I had to tell him. And that's where it went in with me, where I had to forgive myself, because I found that I had to say, I allowed this for all these years without saying to you, when you do this, it makes me feel this way. And this has got to change, because I cannot accept that. That no longer is that cannot be a part of my existence. You know, and when you're young and married, see, there he is, God has to show us. When you're young and married, you don't always know the dialogue and the words to use. But I found the older that I got and the more I understood myself and felt good about who I am, that God gave me the right words to communicate, that it's okay, that you have a different paradigm. I have my own way of seeing life. You know, God has given you gifts. God has given me gifts. I have a purpose. You have a purpose. We have a lot of things that we do together. We have a purpose together. He's a pastor. I work alongside him. We work very, very well. But I have a passion for family life. I love the prophetic and the book of Revelations and all of that. He has not a lot of interest in that. He is a word doctrine. I mean, you know, so we have our areas. And it's taken this 36-year journey for us to give ourselves permission individually and together to be okay when we come together to work together, and when we're not together to have our individual gifts and to use the dialogue that I need to speak. And if you don't understand my words, then I need you to say to me, that didn't make sense to me, what you just said. This is what I heard you say. So we're learning to communicate. Even every year that we're married, we learn to communicate better and better and better. And so we're learning to give, like I said before, ourselves permission, okay, to speak the words that I need to speak. Okay, this is what you did, and that's not acceptable. Okay, and I'm having a hard time with that. And he'll come back and he'll say, okay, you know, I didn't understand. I'll give you a perfect example. My husband was an engineer, very technical, scientific kind of person. I'm a creative type. So for years, he would be so upset when we would travel because I have zero sense of direction. He has an inner compass that he was born with. I would have to ask him directions to places we've been every year since we've been married. And he would be so upset. And I'm like, why are you wasting your time being upset about this? Right. And finally, God gave me the words to say. I said, just look at it as a birth defect. Okay. I was not born with a compass. Okay, so I'm going to always have to ask you.
A birth defect. That's
finally, the bells went off. And he's like, why did I waste so many years being upset with something that you could not change? And, you know, and he would be discussing it. You know, why are you asking me? And this, and I'm like, you're wasting this whole dialogue. Okay, the answer is creepy. You just want to know the right direction. My answer, you know, and finally he got it. It was years. So you have to keep growing and use the dialogue and be okay with who you are and be honest and open and transparent and speak the words and don't hold back and give yourself permission to say what you need to say.
Yeah, and I think
that I had to accept the fact that she was directionally challenged.
To give yourself permission to say what you need to say, because for so long you hold it in. You don't say what you want to say, and that eats at you. It does eat at you, and I think that we have to. And sometimes you're at a point where, for your own personal well-being, you have to forgive others. Not necessarily that they deserve to be forgiven right then, but doggone it, you deserve the peace. You deserve the peace. And so that's work for me. It's like, I deserve the peace. They might not be really worthy of forgiving, but let me just go on and forgive them to a point so I can sleep tonight. So
what do you mean better. To a point? What do you mean to a point, Sabrina?
To a point.
To a point. How do you forgive somebody to a point?
To a point, at least today, I can give you some grace, and I'm gonna deal with the rest tomorrow. You know,
she going up there portioning out her grace. I'll give you 90% grace and 80% grace.
So we are issues. We are a work in progress. We deserve the peace. Right. So forgive them, people. Forgive people. Forgive people. Yes.
Hey, Portia, I want to ask you this. What are some steps for those that are listening and those that are watching us? What if you're the person that needs forgiveness? You did something, and sometimes, maybe you didn't recognize it or you didn't admit it at first, but that you were the person that did something to somebody else, but you don't know how to approach it. How do you ask the other person to forgive you? And it could be some time has passed and maybe you're all up in your head about, are they going to receive it? Are they going to be mad? And by the time you think about it, you talk yourself out of it. What should you do?
Now, I actually have a story like that in the book, and that's the one where the mom had to reconcile with her daughter after divorce. And after so many years, she didn't know how to approach her daughter. And it takes a certain amount of courage, and you really have to prepare yourself, because you can talk yourself out of it before you even try to reconcile, because you will imagine what the outcome is going to be. And that's not giving the other person the benefit of the doubt. We don't know how they're going to receive us. If we take off our mask, if we're real, we're honest, we're sincere, we bear our heart, we don't come with a facade, we don't give an empty surface level apology. We've got to come from someplace that's real. And if we come bearing our soul to them, and we know that we have laid it all out on the table, and we have made some open confessions about that thing that I said to you, I should never have said that. And I know it hurt you to your core. And I came from a really bad place. And, I was not the person that I should have been when I said that. I mean, you're going to have to eat a whole lot of crow. But I mean, it's got to be sincere. It's got to be sincere. When a person knows that you're coming from someplace real and you are humbling yourself, I mean, so abased, you could be rolling on the carpet so abased. Right. They've got to see that and understand that your heart is real. Okay. Once you've done that and you've laid it all out and you make that apology and you make a commitment that I am on the road to recovery and I'm working to be a better me, and I hope I never treat anybody the way that I treated you, you can do it. Okay. Once you lay it all out, that's all you can do.
You know what? I'm telling you, that is a great place to end the show on today, talking about what we need to do to ask for forgiveness. You guys, you've been listening to We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. The Superstation. Hey, just an FYI, we will not be here on Thursday or on Friday, because on 9:10 they are going to have live the 2021 Westwood 1 PGA Championship, which means that we'll be back on Monday. So we want you to join us on Monday. Thank you again, First Lady Portia Hewitt, for this your wonderful book. We absolutely want you to get her book, Reconciled. You can get it right there on Amazon. All right, we'll see you next week. God bless. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. That was awesome, Portia. Thank you. Oh my. Oh, good, Portia. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
See y'all on Monday. 2 days. 2 days.
We have 2 days off.
Woo! We won't know what to do with ourselves, so you guys better come back. Lady Portia, you were phenomenal again. Phenomenal. That was great. That was so great.
They want a series, Lady Portia. They want a series.
Seriously. I mean, it was so much. You guys, seriously, the book, and I know I'm pushing the book. I'm telling you, in the book, she talks about the stories, but at the end of the book, she gives all of the steps of what needs to take place. So it's kind of a how-to in all of these different situations. And I'm telling you, it's a great reference book. You may know somebody that, you know, is dealing with unforgiveness and they just don't know how they can find the strength to forgive. And sometimes, you know, I just love when you hear other people's stories, because that's what encourages you and inspires you to say, if they could do it, I can do it too. So this is absolutely a book you want to have in your library. This has been awesome. Thank you so much, Portia, for, you know, just bringing it yesterday and today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was big. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Talk to y'all.
Bye.
Bye.